Hello and welcome to another short drawing lesson. This week I'm going to show you a really fun way to add a splash of colour to a drawing that you've done on a piece of paper using a drawing app or something on your iPad or on a desktop computer. So the first thing we're going to do is take a picture of the drawing. Now you could do this, just pop that over there. So obviously you could scan it in or you could take a photo of it completely square on, but what we're going to do is just include a bit of the environment, so the background floor, and even put our pen in as well. So we just need to take a picture at that point, and then we'll take it over to the drawing app. Right, so here we are on the iPad. I'm going to use the Procreate app, but any drawing program that's got layers will probably work in exactly the same way, or pretty much the same way. So the first thing I'm going to do is bring in our drawing, insert a photo. There is the photo of the drawing, and I'm going to scale it up so that it fits my page. There we go. And here's there's the magic step. We need to make a layer behind our picture, a spare layer where we're going to do some colouring, and then we'll go back to our picture layer. And see here we've got an N. These are the blend modes. So normally they're set to normal, and we've got all of these others to choose from as well. And the one we want is multiply. It looks exactly the same, but what it's done is made anything that's white or light transparent, and anything that's dark, like the black lines, solid, which means that we can now draw behind there. So if I pick a big brush and a colour, you can see I can sketch or add some colour behind my drawing. And the black bits are solid, the transparent bits are the white bits. If your page isn't completely white, because your photo is maybe a bit underexposed, you can go back to your drawing layer, perhaps use curves or something like that. See this lump here, that's the white of the page, and it's not all the way up the right hand side where pure white is. So I could just bring this across a little bit, which will make the page nice and white, and it will mean that my colours are less murky. If it's very grey, your blue will go sort of darker and darker. So we want the page to be the brightest bit. So now that's set up correctly. So now we need to just choose what kind of rendering style we're going to use. I might go for a sort of a watercolour type rendering, I think, on this one. So I've got some brushes here from Matty B. If you look for Matty B and watercolours, you'll find those. So there's this nice Geo Blobs one. So I'll pick a sort of sky colour for the background. And I'm just going to splatter in some kind of background blobs. These are obviously scanned from some real textures, of brush textures. They're quite nice. Next, I'll have another layer on top of that background colour, still behind our original drawing, and we'll pick a different brush that's better for colouring. And let's have a sort of rusty red, orangey red coloured car. And now we can do some colouring. I'm going to keep this fairly light so that some of the background colours show through, because it's going to be like watercolour. They're transparent, so they blend with each other quite a lot. And I'll be quite loose with my colouring. And I think we need a bit of variety in there, so we'll have some more yellowy oranges too. And some cooler ones. It's always more interesting if you've got a few shades rather than just everything exactly the same colour. Add some to the driver. There we go. We'll add some shading underneath with some greyish blue, almost black, down there where it's nice and oily. A bit to the tyres. And there, a bit of shadow on the ground. The nice thing is, because you've got layers, none of this is set in stone. You can play around all day long until you find exactly the settings you're happy with. Just a bit of colour for the driver. And we will make a new layer on top of the drawing, so up here on top of everything else, and we'll use that for some highlights. So I'll pick my favourite pencil, get a very bright colour, and then just where the shiny paint would reflect your light source, you can just add a few little specks of highlights to those. You have to be a little bit careful not to get too carried away, but as long as you go subtle with it, you'll be right. Quite like doing them on the centres of the wheels and then putting a whiz line on. And there's probably enough of those, he says as he puts another 10 on. And we'll put some shading in there as well. Go back to our original painting layer and we'll pick a darker version of our fill layer and just put some shadows on things where there should be shadows. Now I'm just being very rough and ready with this to keep it short, but obviously you'd want to spend a bit longer on it than I'm doing. But you can see how using that blend mode you get, it's a really fun way to add just a splash of colour to a sketch that you've done on paper. And there's something magical about just seeing your original drawing brought to life a bit like that. Maybe I'll just take the opacity of that fill layer down a bit so it's a bit more watercolour washy. And there you go. So do let me know in the comments how you got on if you give this a go. I'd love to hear your experiences. Otherwise, like and subscribe and have a fantastic week, and I'll see you again for another video soon.